everybody, to the Podecito podcast. I am your host, The Real Force United. Thank you for joining me as we journey episode by episode through our collective favorite show. Of course, I'm talking about the incomparable Las Vegas. Before we get started on this episode, I just wanted to say that I have to record this on a tight schedule, so if I'm going to try to edit out as much background noise as I can, but I can't sit around and wait for all the ambient noise and everything. It's just going to have to happen because we got to get this done. So here we are at the 6th episode of Season 2, Games People Play. This episode aired October 18th of 2004. It has an IMDb rating of 7.6 out of 10 and a Las Vegas-theseries.com score of 4.5 out of 5 chips. Las Vegas-theseries.com, of course, has a plethora of information that I can access through the Wayback Machine. If you can, and you are able to, please go ahead and support the Wayback Machine. Use the Wayback Machine, too, to find some hidden gems on the internet that has been lost to time, and let's face it, really internet deforestation. They're doing the Lord's work over there. The aggregate score for this episode is 8.3 out of 10, or a B score. And I'll just offhand say that sounds, give or take, about right from what we're talking about here. This episode was written by Adele Lim. This is his last episode writing for Las Vegas. This is his swan song here for the show. It was directed by Jeff Woolnough. Jeff Woolnough has directed quite a few things. Most notably, the first thing he directed was Betrayal of Silence in '88. That was a TV movie. He directed former guest star John Cena in UC Undercover in 2002. He directed former guest star Bodie Elfman, as well as Darius McCrary from Family Matters, in Freedom in 2000. He's directed quite a few other things that are, whether they're similar or not, we'll see. There was 7 episodes of Bones, which I think is probably the closest thing to Las Vegas, actually, would be Bones, except it doesn't have, like, the gambling aspect. He directed 2 episodes of Heroes Reborn, and as we all know, Heroes is in the same universe as Las Vegas because Heroes utilizes the Podecito, don't you know? He wrote or directed 4 episodes of Riverdale as the latest thing that you can see that he directed in 2023. But here for Las Vegas, he directed 4 episodes. This is the first one that he directs, and this is the only one that he directs for Season 2. Season 3, he comes back and does Bold, Beautiful, and Blue, as well as Coyote Ugly, and Cash Springs Eternal. So this is stepping his foot in the water here for Las Vegas, but we'll see more of him next season. And he takes what he learns in Las Vegas and uses it for stuff like Bones. But there's not really anything on his resume that suggests that he should offhand know how to do this, but he does a good job. So we start this episode by whooshing through the Vegas Strip at nighttime. Oh, what a scene that was. We even passed a Wayne Brady appearing billboard, and we whoosh into the casino, through the casino floor, to see Mary just exasperated at Dave Mirra as he BMXs his way through the casino floor before he turns around and says,
Mr. Mirra, you're here for the video game convention, not the X Games, please.
Sorry, Mary.
That scene happens to have some music underneath it. If you're watching on the original version, hey, Surreal, do you have the original version? No, I don't have the original version. But if you have the original version, the song that you hear is Holla by the Baha Men. If you're watching on the DVD, it's a ska production song, or a production song in the style of ska music, but not, it's I guess that's as close as they can get to Baha Men. But if you're watching on streaming service, they actually put in a song called Beat Roadrunner. To say that, easy for me to say. The song is Beat Roadrunner by Champion Sound and Mark Roberts. It's not a bad song, actually. All these are halfway decent. None of them, like the DVD one does sound like a production song, but it's not a bad production song. So it's still good. Dave Mirra skates by, our lovely Mary. Dave Mirra's going to pop back in sooner than you think here, and we might as well talk about Dave Mirra here while we're here, because we got a couple other guest stars we have to get to, and we can get to them in a little bit. Dave Mirra was a BMX athlete. He was one of the X Games, not founders, but one of the pioneers of the X Games. As it turns out, he was the most decorated bike stunt rider in X Games history with 20 medals, 14 of them gold. He was hit by a drunk driver twice. The second time, he was thrown 20 feet, and the doctors told him he would never ride a bike again. And wouldn't you know it, he did. He rode a bike again. He doesn't have that big of an IMDb history. He's only done really 5 things in total, and most of them, you know, they were all basically the same thing. The first credit was on his video game in 2001, Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2. This is his second credit, this episode of Las Vegas. He then does George Lopez in the same year as himself. He does promo videos for X Games in 2005, and then he does a commercial for Subaru Launch Control as driver number 40 for one episode. It says for one episode. I didn't know that was a show. But that's Dave Mirra's IMDb, and that was in 2013. Dave Mirra, unfortunately, with his stunts and what he did, he ended up suffering from CTE, and it's believed that CTE led to him committing suicide in 2016, in February of 2016, at the age of 41, via gunshot. And I looked him up, because I'm not into BMX or bikes or anything like that, but apparently the story goes that he, in rehearsals, because when you do those kinds of stunts, you will take falls. And he took some bad falls, and there's one in particular that people point to where he kind of fell on his head and neck and really messed himself up. And it's believed that he's one of the early casualties to CTE. Maybe not even early casualties that we can easily trace back in recent history. Because really the early casualties, we're talking, you know, however many centuries through the years, right? But this is one of the more prominent, I suppose, victims of CTE was Dave Mirra. Dave Mirra here in this episode seems like a nice guy. They don't have him doing a whole lot other than just kind of being the affable athlete of the day in this episode, and that's fine. That fits him perfectly for this one. He's exasperating Mary though as he bikes through the casino, and Mary is trying to tell her woes to Sam, and that may just be the wrong person, because Sam just says,
Now, other than Dave Mirra turning the casino into a bike park, great.
Yeah, that blows. Listen, one of my high rollers kids wants a copy of this unreleased video game, Ultimate Fighter Playmates. Talk to the rep and hook me up.
Why would the rep do that?
Because you're gonna show him your breasts? I don't know. We're
Right.
team, Mary. Be a team player.
and then she just walks away. And Mary is talking to Delinda, who has to tell her that she can't fit the video game guys in there. Apparently it's a big video game convention. It's a fake one, but it's a big video game convention in the Montecito. And even though Mary tried to get, or did get it cleared with Delinda that the video game guys could have access to Mystique and have their after party there, etc., Delinda, it says that she can't do it because of some celebrity happening there. Apparently Delinda doesn't understand how geeks roll. She should let them in, because this is before anybody really knew how geeks got down, especially if they're video game developers and they got money and they're in Vegas and they're mostly young and around you. Oh, Delinda, you're missing out, sweetie. You let those video game guys in there. That's a ton of money for you. But in the meantime, she's got a ton of money right now because she's saying that,
Yeah, but it's extra pack because Ashton Kutcher is challenging Colin Farrell to an arm wrestling match, and the winner gets a tequila shot from Paris Hilton's chest.
Wait,
Yeah.
what chest?
Cleavage.
What cleavage?
Exactly.
that first off, obviously, we all know Paris Hilton is a former guest star of Las Vegas. I told you my feelings on Paris Hilton in that episode, so there's not much else to touch on there. We're hearing the writers' feelings about Paris Hilton here, and it's very interesting. I found a couple of more Las Vegas forums in my research of this. Some of these are actually still kind of live. You don't have to go to the Wayback Machine for them, but there's not much there. Just kind of people saying, "Oh, I love Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas too." And some people, some newer reviews of the show talking about how light it is, how fluffy it is, accurately talking about how, it's not, ground, we're not exactly, curing cancer here, but it's a breezy show. It's a good show. It's a nice, light show. A lot of, there's a couple people we were talking to that actually recognize the Love Boat connection too. Part of it, one of them I remember seeing just today was talking about how breast heavy Las Vegas is. And this is interesting because this one is kind of subliminal, but not really, because I've seen this show so many times, but this is the first time I recognize that they're talking about Paris Hilton's chest while prominently having Nikki Cox / Mary's chest in the center of the screen. Meanwhile, Delinda's is covered up by her clipboard. And your eyes just naturally gravitate. Like, it's, you know what I mean? I don't care, man, woman, straight, gay, whatever. Your eyes are naturally, because they're talking about them, right? Because they're talking about a woman's chest. So your eyes are naturally going to gravitate towards the prominent chest muscles that are on the screen at the time. You know what I mean? There's a scene later on where Delinda is, I guess, checking, not ogling necessarily. I guess she is a little ogling some male models for a party later on to be held in Mystique, and she mentions abs. And wouldn't you know, as you're watching that scene, very prominently featured are these guys' abs. So that's not, I don't know how much of an accident that is. And I don't know necessarily that it should be an accident. Like, that's what the show is going for. You know what I mean? It hides from it, but it doesn't hide from it. It's cheeky about it, but sometimes it's not cheeky about it. And it's just one of those things that's like, that's interesting. I automatically, without thinking, like not even subconsciously, subliminally, just it's a natural. It's like, don't talk about the elephant in the room. Like, well, now you got to talk about the elephant in the room. You know what I mean? Like, don't think about chocolate. Now all you're thinking about is chocolate. You know? So we cut to a large mega screen. It's not even, it's like it's a bunch of, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, so about 16 screens all put together to make one giant screen. And Nessa is watching Danny and Mike play video games. This looks like, it looks like it could have been a real video game. It also looks like it was probably a fake video game, but actually in 2004, it might have been a real, just kind of cheap looking video game, because you're talking about 2004. I have a couple of Xbox games that look this really cheap. Like the graphics were not great on this, and not every fighting game was Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. There were definitely some fighting games that weren't great. But it's two guys that are battling each other, and while we're watching this, there's some production music underneath it that I'm pretty sure is just in-house production music. And Nessa is disgusted by the geekery, really the manliness, the manness of Danny and Mike and their rivalry. And by the way, this is a good foreshadow for the rivalry between Danny and Mike and how that's going to perpetuate itself throughout this episode too. It's going to keep going throughout this. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a driving force of their story through the episode. But she says that she doesn't want to spend her night off watching them geek out. And she comes back with,
Oi! How long is this going to take? I don't want to spend my night off watching you two geek it up.
Two men fighting half naked in a bathroom. That's not gay.
Gay like a fox, baby.
That's another subplot that's going to keep coming up in this episode as you keep watching. So Nessa takes off because she gets a call that somebody wants to meet her, and Mike's character hits Danny's character with I guess the best way to describe it in wrestling terms is a military press into a shoulder breaker. And just as that's happening, and we see the skeleton fracture into the shoulder breaker, which, by the way, would be a technique that we would see later on in Mortal Kombat games to great effect, the mainframe shuts down. And so they can't play anymore. And that'll come back later, too. There's a reason why that shut down. So Mary is showing off Mystique to the video game geeks, and we get a good shot of a billboard or advertisement for Mystique outside of it, talking about the experience of it, and we'll see that logo a bit later. Keep that logo in mind. I hate that logo, but keep that logo in mind. And Mary talks about how sophisticated spot Mystique is, and just as she's doing that, we see a woman getting kicked out of Mystique. As we're doing that, the music that we hear seems to be production music, although the production music seems to change with each iteration, but it does seem to be production music, and the girl is kicked out. She's definitely drunk, and she's getting carried out. She says,
And we can't have you throwing martinis at our guests.
Nobody calls me a hoochie.
Thank you for choosing Mystique.
and immediately you can see as that happens the sort of disappointment on the girl's face. Like she's not being belligerent completely. Like you can see the instant regret on her face as she turns to leave, but she falls down, her purse empties out, and Mary leads the video game guys into Mystique while helping the woman pick her stuff up. And as she does that, we see that she picks up a badge. And the woman is very apologetic, and she explains what the badge means, that it's her husband's badge.
It was my husband's. Tomorrow would have been our 10th year anniversary. We got married right here. Listen, please tell the pretty blonde in the inside that I did not mean to cause so much trouble at her club. Thanks.
Oh, did you hear that? Oh, did you hear it? I heard it. That came in loud and clear to me. I heard that. And she stumbled right in front of the right person, too. We then whoosh over to Belisara. And in Belisara, we see a striking woman, and she introduces herself to Nessa as Vita Brighton. And she says that Nessa asks if she can help her, but she actually wants to help Nessa because she says that she came with a message that she would like to help, that she actually came with tickets to Morocco. And the reason why they're first class tickets to Morocco is that she actually wants to bring Nessa to her father.
First class ticket to Morocco? I don't understand. Your father wants to see you. My father's dead.
And then we whoosh into the intro. This intro is the best damn intro in the business. So if you're watching this episode on one of the streaming services that it's on, as far as I know, is Roku, Amazon Prime, and Peacock. It might be on something else. Maybe it depends on which country you're in. If you're watching it on one of those streaming services and that streaming service asks you if you want to skip the intro, go ahead and skip that streaming service, because we're talking about Las Vegas, which is the best damn intro in the business. You do not skip this intro. Another thing we don't skip is talking about the actress who has offered Nessa her tickets to Morocco. She's going to be the driving guest star of this episode. Whether or not she's your VIP of this episode is up to you. Vote in all the usual places, which is all the socials media, by the way. That's Reddit, that's Facebook, even though Facebook has changed how you can post polls now, which I don't like. Twitter, the post will be, Twitter, the post is up for 7 days. I put it up there all the time for 7 days. Instagram, post is up there for a couple days. I can't control how long the post is up there for. They just give it to you for a couple of days. And TikTok, most of those, so the places that, since we're here, the places that limit how long a poll can be up are really just Instagram now. Facebook used to. I think that was only for a few days. But it's Instagram, Facebook used to, since they can't put posts up or polls up anymore in the Las Vegas page, and even on the main page you couldn't put posts up. Those are the only, and Twitter. But Twitter lets you at least extend it to 7 days. Instagram only does it for 2. And Facebook, I think, does it for like 2 or 3 or 4, maybe less than a week, for sure. The ones where the posts are always up are the other socials media. Once the Twitter poll closes, though, I tally up all the scores. So you can still vote, but I tally them all up once the Twitter poll closes. The actress who offered the ticket to Nessa is an actress by the name of Rowena King, here playing Vita Brighton. Rowena King, if you watch really, if you watch anything, you've probably seen her. If you watch black stuff, you've definitely probably seen her. And if you're in Britain, you for sure have probably seen her. The first thing that she's credited with is London Kills Me in 1991 as Melanie. Fast forward a couple of years, and she's in Breaking News as Jamie Templeton for 13 episodes alongside former guest star Lisa Ann Walter, who you all liked very, very much. She was Rose Gluck, remember that? Fast forward a couple of years, matter of fact, a year, she plays Camille in Half and Half for 7 episodes. I do recognize her from that, for sure, for sure. She's also in Fastlane. She does this episode of Las Vegas. At the same time, would you believe it, she double-crossed us the exact same year. She's in another Vegas show in the same year. How can you do that? How can you do that to us, Rowena? How can you? Double crossing. She alongside Rob Lowe, Joey Pants, Tom Sizemore, Sarah Lancaster, and Dr. Vegas in 2004. She's in Nip Tuck for an episode, and the latest thing you can see her in, aside from Sexual Healing, which is in production right now, is alongside Jeff Bridges, John Lithgow, Alia Shawkat, a.k.a. Maybe from Arrested Development, is the old man. She plays Nina Kruger for 4 episodes. That's the latest thing you can see Rowena King in. But here she plays Vita Brighton. She is very, very British, very, very sexy, very, very devious. We will see. As we come back from the intro, we hear Nessa and Vita talking, and Nessa's trying to get some information because she just can't believe it. She believes that her father is dead. And here comes this woman telling her that her dad is alive. Not only is he alive, but he wants to see her. Not only is he alive, but he wants to see her, but he came to Las Vegas at one point to see her. On her birthday, in fact.
If my father wanted to see me, he would have come himself.
He did your birthday, September the 7th. He cried when he saw how beautiful you were.
Who are you? What kind of bombshell is this? Nessa's been living with the DeLines her significant portion of her life now. She's believed that her father's dead for a significant portion of her life now. And all of a sudden, this woman pops in and says that he's not actually dead and that he wants to see her. So Nessa walks away from the situation, but she's definitely shooketh by this interaction. And it's obvious to understand why. Sam talks with a young man who comes in just hot as a pistol. He's not yelling, but he's definitely smug and he's definitely arrogant. He's basically this close from saying, "You know how famous I am," when he says that his dad actually drops a lot of coin in the casino. So that's why Sam is dealing with him, because his father is a major whale. And he's upset that Sam can't get him the first edition of a video game that's not out yet. We have to talk about this young man because he's going to be another big part of this episode. This little sniveling piece of Montecito Wales son is played by an actor named Bradley Snedeker. Now, Bradley, his first role was actually in Power Rangers Wild Force as a guard in 2002, alongside one of our other former guest stars, Kelly, I think her name was, from the Everlast episode. A couple years later, he plays this episode of Las Vegas as Carl Ellsworth Jr., the son of the big whale that Sam is trying to keep happy in this. He then goes on to do 10 episodes as Curtis Fielding in The Young and the Restless. And of course he does. He's got that soap opera pedigree in his blood. Once you hit Las Vegas, you're good for soap operas. Or if you hit soap operas, you're good for Las Vegas. The latest thing you can see him in is Homewrecker in 2025 as Tom. There's not much. By the time he gets to Las Vegas, he doesn't have much of a resume to even show that he's good, that not good enough, but shows that he has the pedigree to the history of playing a character like this on a show like this. He'll get more of it as his time goes along. Like, he does stuff like 2.5 Men, the comedy there. You could transfer, although he's in the later seasons, so that's the worst season. He's the worst season of 2.5 Men. But he does do ER. He does do a couple other things where, like, he could CSI. You can kind of the closer's probably another one that you could probably if you could take your lumps from there, you could take your lumps into Las Vegas. So he's not, he does fit this role very well as a smug guy. And his interaction with Sam, just being so arrogant at her when she is trying to get him a video game that just to make him happy, that's not even out yet. And immediately after that, you could almost see a switch in Sam turn on as he leaves, because she gets this, it's not maniacal, but it is when you know Sam smile on her face, and her fist is clenched up so perfectly to punch him in the face.
Look, for the kind of coin my dad is dropping in here, I shouldn't have to settle for something else. So let's get our A game going, okay?
What's with the Ellsworth kid?
Well, besides being a spoiled brat and an ingrate, not much.
And she doesn't release it until she's talking to Ed, and Ed looks down at the hand. Like, that's a subconscious thing. Probably not even thinking about it. Probably just a thing that happens, as you're rehearsing the scenes. Maybe James Caan subconsciously, you pick up a rhythm, and you knew that the rhythm, eventually she'd open up her hand, and that's about where she does it, when she crosses her arms. So but it is a subconscious thing, and it is something that, or maybe conscious, but it is a thing that I picked up just watching, because her fist stayed balled up for a long time until Ed looked at it. And it doesn't even look like she was consciously opening it up for him, but it's just the timing of that worked out very well. And so Ed comes over to talk to Sam, because apparently Carl Ellsworth Jr. doesn't like Sam. And his father knows that Junior doesn't like Sam, and he's upset that he doesn't like Sam. Ed regales a story to a very frustrated Sam, who's so frustrated she's biting her knuckles and or her phone in just frustration for how much she wants to smack this kid.
I had this lieutenant once. This man could not get laid in a whorehouse with a $1,000 bill tacked to his head. I mean, he was that bad. But you know what?
What?
I got along with the guy. You know why? I had to.
Understood.
That's good.
I like that scene. So we've seen scenes like this in the past 3 episodes, 2 or 3, few episodes with Sam and Ed, where Ed is the authority, where Sam is the wildcat. Sam is the pit bull who will get into a fight, who will knuckle up to somebody, what's up, you little bitch, she's from the streets of Vegas, or she's from the streets of the Southwest, and worked her way up to that, but she hasn't forgotten where she's from. She hasn't forgotten, I think it's Arizona. I think we're going to hear more about it from Arizona. It's from the Southwest. Might be Vegas, but I think it's from the South, because again, I think the only Vegas natives on this in the main cast are Danny and Mary, but Sam is very close, and she never forgot it. And we've seen her vindictive side, we've seen her ugly side, we've seen her menacing side, we've seen those sides of her before. But she gets in line for Ed. She, all that. She's the loose cannon. She's the wild card. She's not even a wild card, but she's the maybe the enforcer. I would. If I had to compare her to another character, I would compare her to Raphael from the Ninja Turtles. Hothead is a better descriptive. Very hot-headed sometimes, but gets in line for Master Splinter. When Sensei tells you to get in line, he gets in line. And same thing for Sam. We've seen this in the last 3 episodes. She understood she will get in line for Ed. That, again, more establishing of hierarchy, more establishing of roles. I like that. And then we'll see that change as the show progresses. We'll see different developments happen, and those will be interesting. But I like what they're doing here and how, and I'm sure they don't even know how that'll progress in later seasons, but it's something that I picked up on watching this. Let's let the dealer shuffle the deck for a second, and we'll be right back. Planning a party but can't get to Mystique?
Now we hear it's the hottest club in town.
It is, but it won't be if I rent it to you. No offense.
No worries. Let the action come to you. If you're in the Southern California area, let the vibrant, enthusiastic, and experienced event planners at Belizean Beauty's Liquid Creations
go ahead and keep the party going.
From anniversaries to quinceañeras, birthdays to weddings, and everything in between, the Liquid Creations ladies have got you covered.
If there's anything else you need, please do not hesitate to call me. Have fun.
To book your next event, call 323-423-5866 or send a request either to krrromero9@gmail.com or on Instagram at liquid_creations with a K. So we go back into surveillance and we see Mike and Nessa has Mike scan an image of her father, age it up by 13 years. Now, she doesn't immediately tell Mike that it's her dad, but he ages it up 13 years, and then Nessa asks him to run surveillance footage and see if they can face match him with anyone in the casino or in the database, and they can't. But then Nessa has them pull up footage of her from that same day, her birthday, which I guess she was working on her birthday, which happens, you hope it doesn't, but it happens, and then try to see if she can spot someone that looks similar to him in footage of her, because according to Vita, he came on her birthday and saw how beautiful she was. Now, this is also important, being able to look up a date, being able to pull the footage from that date very quickly. That's going to come up at the end of this episode, so keep that in mind. But we do see this guy in a baseball cap, this black gentleman in a baseball cap and sunglasses, but they can't place his face with anything. They can't identify his face with anything because of the baseball cap and the shades. But we can definitely see that he is following Nessa. He is around her. He is very strategically placed in the casino to be able to watch Nessa. And she didn't pick up on it at all. Obviously, none of surveillance picked up on it at all, including Ed or anybody else. They didn't pick it up. They didn't pick up this guy in surveillance at all. And so Mike asked Nessa if he should tip Ed off. Keep that in mind, too. That's a interesting point that I don't think gets mentioned a lot, but keep that in mind. Asked if he should tip off Ed, and Nessa says no.
You talked to Ed about this?
No. Ed's been a better father to me than he ever was. I don't want to hurt him.
Okay. It's a lot to keep in mind. Okay. So we shoot over to the pool, and as we shoot over to the pool, we hear another musical break here. If you're watching the original or the DVD, the song that you hear is a song called I Came to Party by Richard Wolfie Wolf. Now, if you're trying to find that song, that is a chore. I couldn't find the song, but I found the credit. I did a lot of digging, and it took me a while. I work very hard on these episodes. I have to work very hard on the research and the notes and stuff. I dig through and find a whole bunch of stuff that I couldn't have found anywhere else. But I found the credit for this is Richard Wolfie Wolf. You can't find the song on the internet. The song title is too generic, and the guy's name is too generic. So the guy, looking up the guy's name doesn't issue good results either, because if you Google it or go to any of the sites or anything like that, you're going to get Richard Wolf, the political and financial commentator, which you should listen to, by the way. But he's but he spells his name with 2 F's, and it won't give you the option to find Richard Wolf. You have to physically type that in with the quotation marks in Google or any of the search engines to find anything else, and that's how I was able to come across Richard Wolfie Wolf. Now on YouTube, there is a musician by the name of Richard Wolf, but he's a newer musician. That's not this guy. This guy, if you check it's a totally different Richard Wolf who does music. You're going to look for Richard Wolfie Wolf, Wolfie in quotations, that's his nickname, Wolf. That's the guy who came up with I Came to Party. Streaming service. The song that you're going to hear on all the streaming services is How to Feel Alive by Adlin. It was a pick'em of either one that you like better. Either one, honestly. But we hit the pool and we see a plethora of 2004 hotness all around. It's definitely 2004 hotness. And even the 2004 gamers that are arguing at poolside because there's been a security issue. You see, apparently some bootlegs of video games have been leaking at the convention, and they're worried that pretty soon they're going to hit the internet. Now, mind you, this again is 2004, kiddies. This is 2004, where if for something as big as a video game file, you will have to get to a corded up computer to upload it to anything. You understand? Like, even the primitive versions of Wi-Fi or whatever probably aren't going to get you the upload speed and or quality. It might be cut off. It might not have the juice. You got to get to a cord. You got to get to a computer somewhere to upload it. Very much like in, was it Groundhog's? No. Very much in What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas, where our boy Aaron Walker had to get to a production computer with the surf off to upload the pictures of the senator. Now, that was just pictures and maybe a couple videos. This is a video game. So, yeah, it's so they do have a little bit of time here, but if somebody actually has them in the time it takes to wrap this up, they could get it up to a computer somewhere and or burn it. Burning it also is going to take a long time too with video games in 2004. But they are worried about that. They're worried about illegal dubs popping up all over the place and getting to the internet online. So while that happens, Ed brings in Danny, and Danny reassures the video game team that they're going to get on top of it. Ed then scolds Danny and Mike for playing video games on company time. I think Ed, and remember, Ed is of the old school back in 2004. Ed's of the old school 20 years ago. So, you know, I've mentioned before about headphones. Remember the first episode I mentioned about the valet with the headphone and the PDA and driving cars somehow and being able to get away with that? You can't do that. There's no way in 2004 you do that as valet. So somebody like Ed, and thinking about his guys playing video games on company time, in public and stuff like that, he probably would not look kindly upon that, and he doesn't. And, of course, Mike being essentially Danny's kind of brother here, Danny is going to shove him directly under the bus when he says,
And I would really hate to think that something happened because my two right-hand men were playing video games on the clock.
We weren't actually on the clock. And it was Mike's idea.
Oh, Danny. We cut to Sam getting Dave Mirra to sign a copy of his video game for her to give to Carl Ellsworth Jr. And that's, again, another thing in these shows from the 2000s or whatever, where you get the rub from the celebrity gets the rub from the cast member. It's a mutual admiration society type thing. So Sam gives the video game to the kid who's still not satisfied and asks Sam what else he's going to get for her.
Front row tickets to Nelly. He's playing at the Palms.
Ooh, Nelly tickets. Look, I'm a business major, babe. I know how much my father's worth to you people, so if you want me to keep him here, start showing me some respect.
Show you some respect. Nelly in 2004 was not hot, okay? Like, Nelly in 2004, now mind you, he did kind of fall off a bit the next year, I think it was. It was either later that year or the next year. We started doing, like, the country song, All in My Head. His star did decline a bit, but he was still kind of an A-list. 2004. He was still a high list rapper in 2004. There was a lot of changes happening in the music in 2004, actually, including hip hop. Because 2004, you're talking, that's the year of the Love Below, speaker box / Love Below from Outkast, and that was a wild thing to adjust how music was. But Nelly still was hot in 2004. So I don't know what this kid's talking about. Plus, just the atmosphere. What? Are you crazy? What? That's a hot ticket. So Sam again is if Sam were Wolverine, now would almost be the time where her claws started to come out of the top of her hands, This kid has the nerve to, when asked what would satisfy him, say,
How about the chick from Cirque du Soleil? The one who could wrap her ankles around her neck.
How about if I get back to you on that?
You do that.
and then he like almost pokes Sam in the stomach as he swaggers away. He's cruising for a bruising. Luckily, Danny's right there to kind of soothe Sam a little bit.
What is wrong with these rich college kids? What is there, some jackass gene that kicks in?
Yeah, there is.
So, which is good. He's right. He's not wrong. He's right. And then he tells Sam that they're tightening up security at the convention. And this was a bad time because, again, one of the other things I told you, Sam is, I think, going through a metamorphosis here, right? And we're going to see more of that metamorphosis later in the season. But she's going through, part of her metamorphosis is going to be more snarkiness, more toughness. And we saw that in this, wasn't the Silver episode. It was the first episode of the season, in fact, where she was making fun of the other queens, and they didn't like her jokes. I thought those were funny. This sequence with Sam, I don't think is that funny, where she says...
Wait, you're tightening security at the convention of boys who can't get dates, so they sit around playing with their joysticks all day?
Okay. Again, I don't think Sam, along with Delinda, understands how geeks get down. I don't think she gets it. As that happens, Danny just happens to see Carl Ellsworth Jr., our favorite whale's son, give money to some dreaded guy for a CD with some writing on it. Now, from his position, I don't think Danny could really see what was on the CD. Hold on, let's take a look. You could I guess you could maybe make out the writing. It was Ultimate Fighting Playmate. So yeah, you can make out the writing from Danny's position, and they're not secretive about it at all. Like, it's just up in the open, label out. It's almost like a commercial. It's almost like they're trying to get caught. But Danny just happens to confront the two guys, and as he does, he pulls Ellsworth in, but the dreaded guy takes off. As he decides he's going to take off, here's where Dave Mirra shows his worth again. And here's where Dave Mirra helps out the Montecito crew. So Dave Mirra might be a good candidate for episode VIP here, because he uses his BMX bike through the casino to trip the reggae guy up and gets a nod from Danny in return.
Here. Hey! Thanks, Dave.
No problem. And that is probably going to allow Dave to be able to skate through the casino more without security giving him much trouble. So Ed is in his office, and we see Sarasvati is back. Oh, Sarasvati is... I know she's the goddess of learning, but to me, she's the goddess of love. I dig me some Sarasvati. Ed actually is making an effort. I give him credit, because there's plenty of times where Ed wants nothing to do with quote unquote new lingo, but he is actually trying to make an effort to learn. When he asks Sarasvati,
when the people say up in your grill, what the hell are they talking about?
What it means is... Ed. Sorry.
But the scene is interrupted by Nessa on the other end of Ed's office, which, by the way, is a good way to show Ed's office off. He's got 3 different entrances now, as opposed to just the one up through the staircase. He's got the one on the side where Sarasvati was. He's got the one over by the wall where Nessa came in. He's got the big one into surveillance with the sliding doors, which we've seen earlier before. That's obviously is probably easier to film in, but it is a cool thing with his office there. So Nessa comes in, and that's an interesting dichotomy there between Nessa and Sarasvati, back and forth. We'll get more into that later in this season, and maybe in later seasons as well, as to their connection. If you know, you know. But Nessa comes in, and she asks Ed if he told her everything about her father's death. If he saw a body, if there are details that he's leaving out, details that he wasn't told. maybe. And this is definitely it's definitely coming out of the blue for Ed. Ed wasn't expecting something like this today. He was just kind of talking, like he's just thinking it's just a normal day, and then something like this comes up. So we get a heart-to-heart between him and Nessa, where he tells Nessa that if there was anything that he thought he would leave out that wouldn't cause Nessa pain, and he's probably talking about the grisly details of Jackson Holt's, can we say alleged death? The circumstances behind Jackson Holt's no longer being in Nessa's life. We'll say that. And he said that he wouldn't bring Nessa into a new country, into a new home, and all other stuff, if he didn't truly believe that Jackson Holt was dead. And Nessa she takes that information in, but she also kind of tosses it out, because she does in fact say,
I saw someone that reminded me of him.
And that's okay, that's enough to end the conversation. But if we, knowing Nessa and knowing the history of Nessa and going back and forth with Ed, and well, maybe not going back and forth with Ed, but knowing Nessa, the couple of Nessa-centric episodes, Nessa's not one to just leave something where it is, to just accept what she's told. She's going to investigate a little bit further, even from Ed. So we cut to Mary running into Danny in that hallway again. Although the hallway looks different this time, although I think it's the same one from earlier in the season. Mary asked Danny to check on the woman who fell down in Club Mystique, Hennessy Figueroa. And Danny tells her that she can't fix everyone's problems. But Danny, you don't know where you work. You work in the Montecito, my boy. So Mary asked Danny to look up Hennessy Figueroa, and Danny makes a quip.
Yeah, usually people wear their engagement rings on their left hand.
Usually, people go on a date before they get engaged.
What are you we've been on dates before, haven't we? Well, maybe we should.
Maybe when you're less busy.
That is the scene I've been wanting to see from Mary and Danny since this season began. We have been they have been far too distant this season for my liking. Say what you want to about the first episode. Have you seen The Rain? Okay, PTSD, very special episode, fine. Say what you want to about episode 2, right? They've been dropping little things in there. You know, Mary and Danny've been mentioned. I have a ring. That's why she didn't sleep with Jay. One of the reasons, I think that's the main reason why she didn't sleep with Jay, because Jay was very, very charming. But I want to see them be together. I want to see them flirt with each other. I want to see her look at him like she just looked at him, which to me is the first time she's really looked at him like that since Always Faithful. This is what I don't know why they decided. I do know why they decided. Because I think they were gearing up to separate them again, because again, NBC loves the will they, won't they business. But I love this scene. I love seeing Danny engaged with Mary. Danny liking Mary. Danny being that close to Mary. This is the whole point of them being in game. I need to see that chemistry. And this is the first time, 6 episodes, bloody hell. We're talking a quarter of the way through the season that we're finally seeing them have good chemistry. Why did it have to take this long? It shouldn't have had to take this long. It should not have. But we cut to Delinda in Mystique and being met by Nessa. We overhear production music through this one, through all the incarnations. So in this scene, if you're watching on the original or DVD, there's a production music, and through the streaming service, it sounds like there's a different production song. I couldn't place any of the production songs, but it sounds like there's differences between the original and DVD, as well as the streaming service. Nessa asks Delinda if she can ask her a question, and Delinda breaks out with,
Yes, I've done it with a girl, but only once. Okay, twice.
Oh, that's too much information. No.
do I believe that? With Delinda and partying, I don't disbelieve anything. I don't disbelieve anything. I do want to mention, I didn't bring this up when Nessa was in Ed's office, but it was mentioned that it was 13 years since Nessa was brought into the DeLine home. Now, doing just math on, again, saying that the ages of the actresses are the same ages as the real of the characters, that would bring Nessa to 15 years old when she officially moves in with the Lines. Now, I was trying to figure out how exactly that would work, because she mentions that she grew up with them, and there's the different stories of Delinda going to survival camp, etc. And then it's like, well, why did Nessa go, etc. Here's what I'm thinking. Jackson and Ed were close through that entire time. That means that Delinda and Nessa were close through that entire time. So that doesn't necessarily mean that Nessa lived with the DeLines that whole time. It just means that Nessa was close with the DeLines that whole time. So while Delinda may have gone to survival camp, CIA survival camp, Nessa was still living with her father, Jackson, up until the point where the issue with or maybe stays with the DeLines on occasion while Jackson's out on an excursion. Jackson's out on doing, his version of the business, and vice versa when Ed may be out, although Ed has Jillian. But, Nessa's probably staying with the Lines a lot, back and forth, right? So that probably makes some sense. Maybe one of the places the Lines were stationed was in England around the time that Delinda and Nessa came together and became close friends around that time, right? So they were family friends. Then the issue with Jackson happens when Nessa is about 14, 15, and ends up having to go in with the Lines. And that would explain that time gap 13 years ago. She was still a teenager, but they still grew up together. They still have some of the differences, but still come together. To me, that still doesn't explain Delinda not being there when Groundhog Summer happens, and still not being there when Ed gets arrested, but that does fill in some of the gaps in the backstory to me. But Nessa asks Delinda if she thinks Ed ever fibbed when he thought a fib would be good for the family. And Delinda says no, she doesn't believe that. Nothing that was actually anything major, the kind of lies that a parent tells a child, but not necessarily, just to get them to make their bed or do their homework or whatever, but anything actually serious or major. But while Nessa's asking her this, Delinda's eyes narrow, and at the end of the scene, Delinda does look back at Nessa like she has her gears working, like, what is this about? Where did this come from? So we go back to the hallway, and it's Mike and Danny, and Mike is telling Danny that he figured out...
Control room checking on that mainframe shutdown. You know, the one that occurred right as I was whooping your ass. Guess what I found attached to one of the hard drives?
I wouldn't know even if you told me, Mike.
It's an external data transcriber.
Yeah.
It's a spy device that taps into the computer's hard drive. It also uses the drive's power source. That's what caused the mainframe to shut down when we played. Someone's making illegal copies when they think no one is using the games.
Now, here's the thing about that. People are making illegal copies when he thinks no one's playing, but clearly these guys are playing on the major screen. Somebody had to set the thing up. Somebody had to be, you know what I mean? The TVs were on. It's not like there was nobody there to know that they were playing these games, I don't think. There are people passing by, in fact. So it's not, how did this guy not know that they were playing the game? Or did he start trying to copy it before they came in and they ended up playing the game and that ended up surging out the system? Either way, Danny already caught the guy who at least had the bootlegs, even if he didn't necessarily make the bootlegs. But Danny thinks that it stops with the reggae guy. But Mike says, no, it doesn't. You have to be somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and this reggae guy doesn't know what he's doing. There's somebody else above him. So him going to Metro doesn't solve their problem. They got to catch the person who's responsible for the copying actually happening. And it's got to be somebody with experience and expertise in electronics.
This kid got access to a secure control room. The only way to break in is if you're an engineering genius, like myself. And I seriously doubt he is.
Wait, so you think he's working with someone?
Oh, I detect the acrid tang of conspiracy in the air. Smell that?
And you could already kind of see Mike is getting a big head of it. We've seen this version of Mike too. Mike gets a big head, he gets ahead of himself. Now, here's the thing. Up until this point, Mike has backed it up. Mike has backed up that swagger with solving these cases. So at this point in the game, I trust Mike. Rowena King, a.k.a. Vita, comes out of her elevator, and she is immediately met by Nessa, who must have known that she was coming down somehow, or maybe was waiting on her. But she wants to meet with Jackson. If Vita knows how to get a hold of him, she wants to get a hold of him. So Vita and Nessa take off in her, I'm guessing, rented convertible, and they go through a bit of exposition about Jackson.
There are at least 3 government agencies after your father in this country alone. You're his daughter. You don't think your every phone call and email isn't being screened?
Ed would have told me.
Ed doesn't know the half of it. He hung your father out to dry.
By the way, hung your father out to dry. We've heard that before. The Professor. We've heard that. That was episode 4, I think. We've heard that before. As far as Ed and Jackson Holt are concerned. Ed's story from other people who know anything about Jackson Holt's story have told Nessa, Ed is not telling you the truth about what happened with your dad. And I think, and I've mentioned this briefly, when Ed was arrested and Nessa wasn't with the family, maybe there's some distance there that we don't know about. Maybe her suspicions about Ed and her father are what kept a little bit of distance there. But other people, this is at least the second person. I'm trying to think back on other Nessa-centric episodes and people from the past. I think this is basically it. So it's really at least twice that we've heard that Ed is only giving her a piece of the story or some of the story or what he wants her to know of the story. In The Office, Ed already said that he held some stuff back. That's not a small detail to just gloss by, but the episode does semi-gloss by it. We then get to our cliffhanger credit ending scene there where they hit a bump and Nessa asks where they're going and she looks back and...
Where are we going?
Let's just keep that a surprise.
Yes, we will, through the commercial break. But luckily, we're on DVD, so we don't have to go to the commercial break. If you're on streaming, you probably have to go through a commercial break. But we whoosh through the Vegas desert back to the car, and we get a little bit more exposition on who Vita is. Vita's sort of a intermediary between shady characters like Jackson Holt and other spies and large times crooks, etc. And Vita asks,
Don't you want to ask me about the weapon?
I just assumed it was a phallic fixation.
I see you have your father's sense of humor.
So I've heard.
So they end up going to a shooting range with the gun. So that kind of eases our minds as the viewers that Vita's not going to shoot Nessa. It's supposed to, gives us a little bit that maybe Vita's more on the level. But then Vita, this is another theme that comes up too, is challenging somebody. Particularly the people that are challenged in this episode. She says,
Care to join me for a round?
I think I'll pass.
I understand. A lot of women find the concept of firepower quite intimidating. Apparently you inherited more than your father's sense of humor.
When do we call him?
But clearly not his patience.
Quick shot to Nessa just shooting up a storm. That's beautiful. Like, obviously knowing what she's doing. And she is not patient. She wants to get a hold of her father now. And Vita is trying to play it off. There's good reason for that. It's been 13 years. Of course, Nessa wants to get a hold of her father. And really also, there's probably part of her that still doesn't all the way believe Vita either. But she thinks that she says she's going to call a cab. But Vita says she'll set up the meeting place to get a message to Jackson at least, and we'll go from there.
Why don't you take a little break?
Yeah, that's a good idea. You go stretch the legs, wash the face, refocus.
There you go.
I assume you're interested in large amounts of money.
It's Vegas, who isn't?
If you like the podcast and you want to help support it, you can send a Cash App, join our Patreon or Subscribe Star, or buy us a coffee. Just search The Podecito on all those platforms. We then cut to the reggae guy in surveillance again. Mike saying he's going to take the lead here on this one. While he's saying that, we hear production music throughout. And Mike is definitely in his arrogant bag here when he says,
Because you got that whole Boy Scout thing going. It's a facade. So they never see the coming. You feel me?
Yeah, I feel you.
So then we cut to the scene with the guys being ogled by Delinda as they have to, she's setting them up for the ladies' night promotion that's going to be happening at Mystique. And here's an interesting thing. The very first shot, you see these guys there, most of them are facing Delinda. Most of them. There's one guy whose back is to Delinda as the scene starts. Keep him in mind. So Delinda is, I told you she was maybe ogling these guys. She kind of is, but it's for business purposes. Mary interrupts her to try to get Hennessy Figueroa, the widow of the cop, onto the guest list for ladies' night. And Delinda doesn't want to put her on because of her performance last one. Now, when we cut back to the next shot of all the guys in a row, that guy whose back was turned, he's turned back around now, and you can see that he has nipple rings. That's an interesting little detail there. But Delinda doesn't want to put her name on the list at all. She basically wants to ban her from Mystique, and tells Mary, and this, by the way, backs up what I was talking about in Good Run or Bad Luck with IMDb's terrible note about Delinda not knowing how to say Nevada. She's not a Nevada native or whatever, where she tells Mary that Mary should know better than to fall for this girl's story because she's born here. Delinda says that in a way to suggest that she herself is not from Nevada. She herself was not born in Nevada. First off, her accent, again, dictates that she's not. And again, she kind of reiterates here that she's not from Nevada. Okay, so that buries that note into the ground. Delinda is picking these guys apart, saying one guy needs more tanning oil. I think he looks fine. I don't think he needs more tanning oil. I think he thinks he's all right as far as his pigment is concerned. So Mary tells Delinda the story of the guy and how he was killed in the line of duty. Danny checked on the Figueroas and found out that he was, and she even produces a paper from back then showing that this guy was killed in the line of duty. Now, this paper entry is not as good as the other ones that we've seen this season from Las Vegas, and even in seasons past from Las Vegas. There's no bylines, or there's no author to this one. It just says that we've got the headline, officer killed in the line of duty, and the paragraphs in the story are basically word salad. Many persons feel at this stage that some legal action is forthcoming, but it now becomes common knowledge that there is pressure from the inside which will materially change the aspect of the case. Of no less importance was the common recognition shown of the fact that any menace from without to the peace of our continents concerns all of us, and therefore properly is a subject for constitution and cooperation. For not even constitution, consuation? Oh, consultation, that's an L. Consultation and cooperation, excuse me. This was reflected in the instruments adopted by the conference. And then it repeats the of no less importance paragraph. Then on the next paragraph, it says a suggestion that public hearings on applications be limited to 1 every 6 months, was taken under advisement by the commission, and many persons, and then it repeats the first, and then it just repeats the other paragraphs. So this is no story about the line of duty or a cop being killed or anything like that. However, another thing that we do see as we're watching this, as we see this, is Delinda's tablet. I guess it's an early version of a tablet. It was like an i something or other, but this is before iPads. This is 2004. It's an early, like almost a Kindle. It might be a Kindle even. I don't know when Kindles came out. Where she has the guest list for the event, and we see another version of the Mystique logo. The Mystique logo looks terrible. It looks awful. It looks like a cheap Windows 95 word art logo. It looks cheap and terrible. And Delinda, of all people, I would think Mystique would have a better logo than that. That Mystique logo and font is ugly. That's fugly. That's fucking ugly. That's ugly. That is fugly. But we see a list of names. Most of them are not any real people. I didn't see any on the credits, but we see like Heidi Cartier, Vivian Landacker, Michelle Baird, Tioni Trellinger, Kim McCall, Cassandra Ortiz, Tony Rodinko, although that name sounds familiar, Tony Rodinko, Regina Brodhaig, Allison Pave, Evelyn Egby, Jewel Krutik, Barbara Capaldo, Machito Caroli, Amy Jerkin, Jewel Kolsch, Mary Serchia, Bridget Olo, Terry Ahia, Sarah Lofquist. Now that's starting to sound a little off. Olympia Belazos, Ellsworth, this one, DziegieLewski. Come on. Linwood Nettlingham, Summer Montrelia, Lena Grinman, Jenny Hodder, although that sounds familiar, and Ellen Clow, and then Lee something on the bottom there. So some of these names might actually be, production names, but some of them seem to be super duper made up. But that warms Delinda's heart. The story and seeing the story there. And oh, did you hear that? I heard it. I know you heard it that time. I heard it then too. When Delinda tells Mary
10.
Excuse me?
Paper, cotton, leather, fruit, wood, iron, wool, bronze, pottery, and tin. 10 is the traditional gift for your 10th anniversary.
I knew that beneath that designer brassiere there beat a heart of gold.
She ends the scene, does Delinda still ogling the gentleman, and why wouldn't she? That scene also had production music in it, obviously. The original and the DVD version had the same production music. The streaming service seems to have a different production song in it, however. We then cut to interrogation where Mike is taking the lead, and the Dread guy brings up something that I think I brought up before, where the interrogation that these guys aren't cops and they can't exactly keep him here. Although I think that's been brought up before in the show as well. And that actually flusters Mike a bit, but it doesn't fluster Danny. Danny already had a plan. He came in with a plan. He knew that this would take too long. He has a pair of scissors, and he starts chopping off dreads from the dread-headed guy here.
Hey, what? Wait.
How'd you get the key? How'd you get the key?
Whoa! Okay, all right, okay.
And even Mike is taken aback by it. Mike, his mouth is completely agape, and he just starts to keep clipping off more of them. And the dread-headed guy tells him everything he needs to know. He was sent an email by somebody who gave him the key to the room to copy the games. They just gave him the key, which is an interesting point. So that means inside job. We go to the pool, and you see Nessa there with Rowena, and they're setting up the meet. So they need a completely secure line. The Montecito has a completely secure line, but they're going to set up the meet. There's all these different passcodes and stuff that has to happen, but Nessa has her meeting with her dad online for 3 minutes, and only 3 minutes at 7 o'clock on the dot. It's only 3 minutes, but that's all that they could get. And it's probably because there's going to be some scrambling of networks and all these other different things to kind of, also maybe Jackson doesn't want to stay in one place for too long with the computers and the networks. It's easy to track back in 2004. Not to say it's not easy to track now, but there's probably some of that going on. There's some subterfuge happening. At least that's part of what Nessa believes in going along with this plan. So remember when I talked about challenging somebody? We saw Vita challenge Nessa and her shooting skills. Mike is doing the same thing here with Danny. Mike's confidence is maybe getting the best of him here because he's going off on Danny, talking about how Danny's notions of investigation are antiquated, and that does it.
Listen, I just don't want to make you and your antiquated investigation methods look...
Ho! You're on.
What?
First person to catch the bad guy wins. I don't mean find them, I don't mean get their website address, but catch them. Are we on?
Oh, you bet your hearty boy, but we are.
Hey, you guys talking about each other's asses again?
And there we are again with the questioning with the questioning of our two kings here by one of the queens, just to ruffle their feathers a little bit. But Nessa or Sam this time is asking about Carl Ellsworth, and apparently he's in holding, and Sam immediately gets an idea because they were gonna let him go, but now Sam gets a hold of him. And Sam, by the way, Sam's walk away in that scene is well placed, and the two kings watch her as she walks away, but most notably confused by why she's so enthused to go get the Ellsworth kid before they take off to solve the case on their own in two separate directions. So Sam comes in to get the Ellsworth kid and tells him that he can't be let go because the cops are coming to pick him up, and they don't come for every little misdemeanor, which isn't entirely true. Sometimes it takes them longer. They're not in a rush. It's not entirely true, but matter of fact, it's not really true at all. Like, they'll come for a misdemeanor. But she sets up the thing with a bag, with a blanket and fruit snacks, etc. for our boy. He's going to have to stay the night. And as she says that, a big burly guy with tattoos is put into holding, and he is eyeing the fresh young meat of our young Carl Ellsworth Jr.
You're going to have to spend the night. Yeesh.
Sam.
Oh, you're gonna be fine.
As he is brought into the room, we hear a musical cue here. If you're watching the original version, the song that you hear is a song called They by Jim, spelled J-E-M, as in Jim and the Holograms. But not Jim and the Holograms, but it's spelled Jim and the Holograms. But Jim, just Jim, not even the hologram. She's gone solo now. It's Jim, and the song is They, although it's not that Jim. It's Jim, though. If you're watching on DVD, it's a production song. And if you're watching on the streaming services, it's an AI production song, I think. I can't place it anywhere, but it's something along the lines of, I woke up, I got this feeling that I woke up and I got this feeling that I'm out of place. I might be confused. Okay, that also makes me think it's an AI song. They just plugged in sexual ambiguity AI song, and that's how you get I'm confused. They heard something or something like that. It's okay, sure. Terrible song selection. Terrible song selection on that one. I would go with They over whatever stupid AI song they plugged in there. But they plugged in the AI song. Carl Ellsworth Jr. is thoroughly scared for maybe not his life, but definitely for his safety and having to stay in the room with this big burly guy for the rest of the night. And so much so that he's changed his ways. He now begs Sam to help him out and says that he will do absolutely anything for Sam to get him out of this. He'll pay anything. He needs Sam. Please help him.
Well, it's out of my hands. Now, you don't have to lose my job if they even found out that I was in...
I'll do anything. My dad will pay whatever. Just get me out of here.
That look from Sam. Sam has a number of looks that you don't ever want to see her give you if you know anything about Sam. She's got a number of them. She's got a number of looks that all seem incredibly dangerous to your well-being. Nessa comes out to the pool area, grotto area, where I guess there's a meeting between some of the heads of the casino there, and she says that she needs a report off of Ed's desk, but she needs it now. One of the guests is checking out early, and Ed says, go ahead and get it. So Ed says, okay, go ahead, and Nessa comes in to Ed's office, and she's got the thumb drive that she was supposed to have via Vita and her instructions, and she's found the code to the access code to the mainframe and plugged it all in, and at 6:59 she's logged in and she has access to a meeting with her father. And just seeing the words on the screen, "Hello, Nessa," brings a tear to her eye. You have to understand, kids, this is 2004. There was a lot of importance placed on text on a computer screen. It could fill you with joy. It could fill you with sorrow. It could fill you with fear. You might, you could think as a whole. It was still relatively the dark ages of the internet. There's a lot of stuff like that. It could fill you with love, very intense feelings that we could get just from words on a screen. So Nessa and her father go back and forth. She asks, "Where have you been?" "Traveling with the circus," he says, and I think that may have really clicked with Nessa, that she really is talking with her father. But as she clicks away, we see Ed watching his office remotely, and the disappointment in his eyes as he sees that Nessa is using his computer. So we whoosh through the casino again. As we do, if you look frame by frame, they did a lot of these with frame by frame where people were looking off to the side. And then there's this one guy with the puka shells around his neck who's standing completely still, because you have to for the whooshes, and he's looking up and forward. Like he's looking over the camera's head. And it's completely unnatural, but you would notice that just going through a regular whoosh. You wouldn't see it. You would just see a person. I don't think they intended for too many people to go frame by frame like this. For instance, we whoosh up the escalator and we see two people facing each other. One older Latin guy looking directly at this, I guess 30-year-old-ish black woman, and she's looking off to the side, away from him, not in his eyes at all. Up another escalator, and the two people we whoosh by now, we see their backs. So they couldn't even do the whole looking at the camera thing. And we're seeing more people's backs. We whoosh through a couple people. There's another woman standing off to the side, looking off to the side in a random direction. A guard, some people standing by. We whoosh through to a couple not looking directly at the camera, but, the woman's looking directly at the camera. The guy's not looking directly at the camera. The guy in the gray suit isn't looking directly at the camera, but the woman is. And we see a couple more people, a few more couples of people actually looking at each other, looking like they're talking to each other. So they're better at that job. And then we whoosh into the server room, one of the server rooms maybe for the Montecito, and we see Danny actually in the server room. Not Mike, Danny in the server room, but he's trying to get fingerprints of everybody who would have been attached to the server room. Mike is in surveillance, and he's trying to track all the progress of the IP addresses going all over, trying to upload different video games. So they're both working at the speed of the technology that they have, and Danny's got a little mini computer there going through all the fingerprints, but he notices that one of the servers happens to have a lock on it, and that's the only one that's locked. Danny then calls Mitch, and his stupid mustache. God, I hate that mustache. He calls Mitch and his stupid mustache to try to get some assistance and asking who's in charge of server number 12. Meanwhile, Mike is in surveillance right next to Mitch, asking him a question about the different IP addresses, and both of our kings are working Mitch against each other to try to get him to only help them and not help the other one. And Mitch is not going to be in the middle of their little game here. He's giving out whatever information he has to whoever he needs it, and that's it.
We have an IP address, 245.88.7.12.
It's one of ours.
What's one of ours?
Nothing. I'm just talking to Mike.
Don't you talk to Mike, Mitch. You send me the photo right now.
Yeah, I'm working on it, Danny.
Is that Danny?
Okay.
Hang up on him.
I heard that.
Hang up on him.
Don't you dare hang up on me, Mitch. Send me the photo now.
It's a computer from our business center. Mitch, pull up that footage.
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, I only have two hands, Mike.
They both get picture of exactly who is in charge here. Danny gets the picture sent to him, I guess, by Mitch. But Mike actually sees a video of who was responsible, and it was the girl who was chewing out the other video game guy at the pool with Mike, or with Danny and Ed. So both kings are on their way out. Oh, but Mike seems to have a head start. He's got a picture of her, and he's taking off. Meanwhile, Ed called Danny into his office to ask him questions about Nessa.
I got a lead on that video game problem.
Good.
And this sequence, it definitely, again, brings out the highlight of the family hierarchy. Ed is the parent. Danny is the son. And Danny is acting like a kid who has something else to do, but his parent is sitting there asking him questions that the kid is like, why are you asking me this? Why are you asking me this now? I got to get to something. I got to get to a video game. I got to get to a TV show. I got to get my friends. I got to get to something I want to do. You're holding me back for this thing that I don't know what you're asking me about or why you're asking me or whatever.
I should follow up on that.
You've been around Nessa the last couple of days?
A little. Why?
She been acting strange.
Why? Have you noticed something?
Has she been talking about her father at all?
That's what's strange?
Do you know this woman?
No, just Nessa?
You answer one more question with a question, and I'm gonna snap your neck like a little twig.
Yeah, Danny is definitely the kid in that relationship. So we see Vita and Nessa walking through I guess it looks like a park, maybe a business district. Vita says that she has to take off. Nessa can't come with her to Morocco. Jackson is actually going to come to Vegas to see her. And that Vita's got to take off. Her business here is done. But that if Nessa ever needs a change of venue or anything, that she can come work for her in London. Vita says to meet him at the corner of Springbrook and Western. There does not appear to be a Springbrook and Western in Las Vegas, but there is a Springbrook Preserve in Las Vegas that you can check out if you ever get the chance. In the meantime, Nessa is told that her father will meet her with a white rose. And Nessa takes note of that for sure, as should you, as Vita takes off. And we continue into Mystique, and it is in fact ladies' night. The only men in attendance are the ones that are serving and or dancing with the girls. It is nothing but women all the way around. The music that you hear during this scene, in the original version, the music is Ladies' Night by Kool and the Gang. Why not? It's a ladies' night in Mystique. Of course it is. And I think that song fueled 1,000 ladies' nights in clubs and bars all over the place. If you're watching on DVD, the song is called Disco MF by the Pen 15 Club. Get it? Pen 15 Club. But all spelled out. Pen 15, all one word, club. The Pen 15 Club is called Disco MF. Good song. If you're watching on the streaming services, the song is called Let's Party Tonight by Richard Myhill, Myhill. That's fine too, I suppose. It definitely sounds production song-ish. But yeah, I don't think you can necessarily go wrong with any of them, though I guess in order of good songs, it would be original, then DVD, then streaming. But the original and DVD are closer than you would think, and then DVD is like a distant third. But Mary walks in, sees Delinda, and Delinda tells her about Hennessy Figueroa actually came in a while ago, and Delinda asks Mary,
Have you seen Hennessy? Yeah, she came in a while ago. I hope she's having a good time. Why do you keep doing it?
I guess the easy answer is because I like making people happy, but I feel for her. You know, she lost the love of her life.
Actually, I was wondering why you tweeze your eyebrows like that.
Oh.
Mira doesn't really flatter the shape of your face.
Okay, you know, I'm gonna go find Hennessy.
Okay. Come back, we'll have a drink.
I think because Nikki Cox is so good comedically that I don't know if you've noticed, there is sort of a pattern. Nikki Cox is the butt of a lot of jokes between the queens. Nikki Cox is the one who gets, Sam making her carry all the DSL lines to the house and Delinda talking about her eyebrows and stuff because she's got the comedic chops to do it. She's the one who's the butt of a lot of the jokes. Sam is the one who's cutting a lot of the jokes on other people. But that's the difference. That's and she plays it off so well. Also, Delinda, that's a weird thing to just say randomly in the middle of this. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting around, at a girls' night sleepover or having drinks or having drinks at home, wine night at home or something like that. It's not a beautification night or anything like that. Like, it's a random thing to say, and especially after Mary just told you that she was trying to help Hennessy out of the goodness of her heart. Of course she's talking about that. At that point, a social cue would be to just go along with that and then maybe bring up the eyebrow thing later if it's bothering you that much. Also, I don't think there's anything wrong with Mary's eyebrows. I think they flatter her face perfectly well. She's a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Are you kidding me? So Mary brushes that off and is met up with a guy who immediately strips off his banana hammock, which happened to have which was in the shape of the print of a tuxedo on the front. And Mary says,
Hello.
Your friend have a name?
And he is carried off by different girls. So just full frontal male nudity in Club Mystique is allowed in 2004? Is that right? Is that how things went in 2000? Really? Is that just... I mean, because it was Velcro, by the way. It was rip off. It was tear off. It was not... Also, did that happen also with the firefighters? No, I think the firefighters had... Did they have overalls? I think some of them had I can't remember, and I'm not gonna go check. But yeah, that's Club Mystique, by the way, the classiest club in Las Vegas. Sure, Mary. So she does end up meeting with Hennessy Figueroa, who's sitting at the bar, clearly not engaged like everyone else is. She is nursing her drink. Let's talk about Hennessy Figueroa. We never actually went into Hennessy Figueroa's actress. Hennessy is played by Gladys Jimenez. Gladys has been in a number of things, including but not limited to her first appearance is in Murder, She Wrote as Alida Alvarez in 1994 for an episode. Skip a few years, and she is also from what I'm guessing is a telenovela. 158 episodes. That sounds like a telenovela to me. And it's De Dejaré de Amar as Ana Laura. So I'm guessing that's a telenovela. And why wouldn't it be? Las Vegas loves its soap stars. She also did an episode of Step by Step in 97. That's the waning years of that's the death years of Step. Not even waning. That's death years. She also did an episode of Team Knight Rider. No, not GST's Knight Rider. No, not GST's Knight Rider, but Team Knight Rider as Pilar Pantelet for an episode. She then does 22 episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful. And why wouldn't she? Las Vegas loves their soap stars. And that was as Carmen Arena. She then does 51 episodes of The Young and the Restless. And why wouldn't she? Las Vegas loves its soap stars. 51 episodes, she was Ramona Caceres, or Caceres. Caceres, probably. Fast forward a couple years, she does this episode of Las Vegas. She then does an episode of General Hospital. Say hi to Sam. Why wouldn't she? Because Las Vegas loves their soap stars. The latest thing you can see her in was in 2022 alongside Stoney Jackson and their telenovela legend Eric Estrada in Sangre Negra as Black Blood Isabel. She's got a couple things in post-production, Hubbard Street and The Painting. That's Gladys Jimenez, and Gladys Jimenez is nursing her drink as Mary comes over to check on her, and she tells Mary that this isn't exactly the party that she necessarily needs to be at. She's feeling grief. She's not in a party mood, and partying like this is not the way that this character deals with grief like that. Mary, of course, pours her heart out to her, and you can feel the connection that these two immediately have, and Hennessy says that she's got an early flight and she takes off. But it's, again, piqued Mary's interest, and she feels for her.
I'm so sorry. I just wish that I had something more to remember him by.
Of course.
Hold on a second. Let's get a new deck in here, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, this shit's a whole vibe, and this bitch the whole night. They be playing both sides, trusting them, and I stay by my bro side. Can't fuck with the whole tide, we be with the whole squad. Can't let them win. Yeah, this shit's a whole vibe.
You're listening to Whole Vibe from Jesse Evans' album Space Jam. If you like what you're hearing, you want to hear more, hear it again, or both, just go to tinyurl.com/EvansVibe. That's tinyurl.com/EvansVibe.
I'm back on my bullshit. No mic, but I'm shooting and I'm back with a full clip. Pay attention to the flows I'm delivering. Cut off of my bros to my hoes.
So our insider with the video games, the woman that was causing a ruckus by the pool earlier in the episode, is playing video poker, and both are King Spotter, and they take off after her because they both want to win the bet. They, to the point of running into each other, and can barely get through the bank of slot machines to try to get to her. She's taking off. She's outrunning both of them, by the way, including Mike, who we've already established is a pretty good runner. And she takes off through them. I guess you could attribute it to their need to beat each other is what actually lets her get away for a minute until she runs straight into the arms of our ace, Big Ed. And they reveal to Big Ed that she's the insider for the video game thing. Now, Ed actually passes her off to Danny, and Danny claims the victory here, but Mike disputes that, and that's not a victory. She ran into Ed's arms. It's not, Danny didn't catch her.
Hey, hold it. What's the problem here?
It's a video game pirate. Ringleader. Her. Oh, yeah?
Mr. DeLine?
Holy mackerel. Yeah. What?
You're not picking up your cell phone. I've been trying to reach you. I've been looking all over.
But they are met with Sarasvati, who's got an urgent message for Ed. Apparently, they've been ripped off. Sarasvati tells Ed that there's been over $10 million transferred from their escrow account, which translates into today's money of $16,929,539.44 that got transferred over. More than that, in fact. And not only was it transferred over, but the location of the security breach was Ed's office?
I also determined the location of the security breach. It was your computer.
Ed doesn't seem entirely fazed by that as we whoosh over the Palms roof, and that's the last time we see Sarasvati for this episode. Can we stop for a second and talk about the beauty that is Sarasvati? Goodness, good God. Anyway, So we see Vita dealing with her Palm Pilot, and we see a bar transferring funds. Looks like she's got the funds transferred from her Palm Pilot, and she makes a call saying that the transfer is complete and she's off.
The girl was putty in my hands.
I've never been fond of that expression. Putty.
Now here's the thing, from that shot, it's a very quick shot so you can't really see it, but there's really no place Nessa could have hid that Vita didn't exactly see her, at least from where Nessa came out from. But we'll go along with it for the sake of this scene. Vita's still trying to pull something off here, but apparently Nessa was following her for a few hours, and it was the white rose that tipped her off. You see, Nessa's father grew red roses in the garden, not white roses, and that was Vita's mistake. But Vita tells Nessa that her father had nothing to do with the transfer of the money. He's perfectly innocent, but she pulls out a gun and holds it out to Nessa and tells her to, doesn't tell her to do anything, but basically she's going to get on that plane whether Nessa wants her to or not, but no, she's not. She gets cut off by Big Ed and Mike, who apparently cloned the site. So what Vita transferred was a mirror site. It wasn't the actual money from the escrow account. You see, Big Ed was already ahead of the game. Big Ed knew what was happening before Vita did anything.
The minute I figured out what you were doing, I had Mike here change our security codes.
What you hacked into was a mirror site, something I put together.
Got something else going?
Which ruins Vita's plans, because Vita was trying to use the money as leverage to get out of there, but there was no money to use as leverage to get out of there. She then throws one last Hail Mary and says that she knows where Nessa's father is and that she needs Vita in order to find out where her father is. And immediately...
I still know where your father is. And without me, you're never going to find him.
Ow! Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, right in the mush. You know what, Nessa, Sam is quick to, she wants to ball up. She wants to hit Carl Ellsworth, who saw her immediately snap on the guy that pinched her ass, right? But Nessa, she's low-key, this is this the third time we've seen her punch somebody? She punched, what's his name with the bomb? She punched Vita here, right in the mush. Is this I want to say it's definitely the second time. I feel like we've seen her punch somebody else, too. Matter of fact, she's punched more people than Mike has. Nessa's no slouch for sure. She's no slouch. The cops come to take Vita away, as well as the dreaded guy, as well as our crippy-haired video game girl. The other video game guy tries to offer our kings some video games and systems as a thank you for helping out, but Danny immediately sees Ed in the background and says that they can't take it. They're just doing their job. Mike is like, what do you mean we can't?
So as a token of thanks, I'd like to hook you guys up with a state-of-the-art game system and a couple of our latest games.
Oh, yeah. This is what I'm talking about.
I can...
You crazy, boy? What are you talking about? Of course we can...
I'm not into it.
We can never accept such wonderful tokens of your gratitude because we're just doing our job and we don't really have time for juvenile games.
I think the show is trying to pass that off as a maturity moment because you see Ed smiling at them doing that, but I don't know that that's maybe they can't accept tips of any kind, and that's probably true for security, right? Because that could technically be considered a bribe, I guess. But could it? Because they get into you know what I mean? Like they know celebrities, they get into different things. There's a bit of a line there to cross. Maybe they get material goods for, you know what I mean? Like maybe it depends on what it's for. But the kings don't take the video games, and they resolve their issues with each other, their rivalry with each other.
Although, there is a new basketball court in the gym.
Bring it.
Oh,
are you kidding?
I love that. These guys are brothers. They're brothers now. Ed sends off the Ellsworths after a good time here at the casino. And our boy Carl Ellsworth says the Montecito's the bomb. He's right about. The Montecito is in fact the bomb. Sam comes in with a giant smile on her face, talking about how she charms the Ellsworth kid, but also that this gentleman behind her in the suit, who we saw earlier in the room with Carl Ellsworth, who was freaking him out.
Anyway, that guy, he's the one I told you about for the security guard post. He's been extremely helpful to me, to us.
I like that. I like to see Sam. That's how Sam became the best host in Vegas, is all these different connections that she's building. And she built that connection. I like that. That's pretty good. Actually, that's very Ocean's 11-y too. Because if you remember, Ocean's 11 had a big guy who actually recently passed a year or two ago, who they had come in and pose as a big giant grunt for them in all three of the Ocean's movies. There's only three of the Clooney that continue the Clooney Ocean lineage. There's only three. There's not four. There won't be five. There's only three. But then we see Hennessy on her way out, and Mary just happens to meet her. She was going to take off. She didn't feel right about staying there anymore, which is an interesting thing. One makes you wonder, I guess maybe the plans had already been made, maybe the reservations had already been made, although one would think with 9 months to go that you could break the reservations if need be. Maybe she decided that maybe she forgot about them, and then they came up, and then it was too late to change them, and people were like, you should go, you should take some time to yourself, you should find yourself, etc. But in the meantime, Mary put together a DVD of the Figueroa's time at the Montecito, all 10 years of the things that they did together, from their wedding day to the last anniversary. And this is why I brought up that idea of the Montecito security crew being able to put together this thing that fast, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's a long time. Who knows how long they stayed here? It might have been a weekend, a couple of them, might have been a week, maybe some of them. That's a lot of footage to put together of them, of all the things they did together, and editing it, and either probably didn't speed things up, but that's a lot. By the way, and that would have to be a large DVD. That would be a large DVD. DVDs, especially like just blank DVDs that are probably just hanging out in security, probably aren't going to be, well, maybe. Well, no, because they were still on videotapes for a while, and they did a digital crossover, but I don't think they saved the digital crossovers on DVDs, because DVDs can degrade faster than videotapes can. So that's a little bit of Montecito magic there, them being able to capture that fast. It's also Montecito magic what Mary's been doing for Figueroa this whole time, and it's going to get even more magical as Hennessy is crying at just the concept and has utter gratitude for Mary. And Mary tells Hennessy that there was one other thing that she didn't know.
On your last night here, he snuck out of your room at 4 a.m. He went down to the mall? Got you this? He had it wrapped and kept in the hotel safe. It would have been delivered tomorrow morning with room service.
Foil?
No, it's tin, actually. It's for your 10th anniversary.
I'll say this, it's a lot of rocks on that ring. It's not the prettiest ring I've ever seen, but it's the thought that counts, and you could definitely see the gratitude on her face, her moving on to a different stage of grief on Hennessy's face. Hennessy does a great job in this episode of conveying that, and pairing this character off with Mary is a perfect pairing off for the Montecito magic. Mary does bring that Montecito magic to Hennessy in this episode, and we get a tension breaker here as Dave Mirra passes by one more time on his bike, unabated by anybody's security, I'm sure for his help in getting the dreaded guy's counterfeits off of the casino floor. In the meantime, Ed and Nessa talk at a table real quick about Vita and her history and how she had spent some time in the British version of the CIA, MI5, and that's how she was able to get information on Jackson. And Nessa says that Ed had figured it out beforehand, and that's true. Now, remember I talked about how Mike asked about tipping Ed off about it? I wouldn't be surprised if subtextually Mike actually did tip Ed off, because Ed already had the cameras in his now mind you, the cameras might have already been in Ed's office, right? It's clearly already set up. So that's probably a thing that's already done. So maybe he got a notification, but he had, and I don't know that he necessarily brings that handheld screen with him all over the place, because as small as it is, it still takes up some space. You know what I mean? Even in your like suit jacket, it still takes up some space and would take up some weight. It would look different if it's in his inside jacket pocket and walking around. You know what I mean? So I think he knew that was going to happen, especially when Nessa said that she was going to go up to get the reports. That kind of tipped him off. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the background Mike actually did tip Ed off. And that's also would lead to Mike setting up the mirror site, right? He told Nessa, or he told Mike, or Mike told Ed, all these names. Mike told Ed, and then Ed talked with Mike and set stuff up, and maybe found out about Vita, maybe ran a check on Vita, figured out who she was before Nessa. That probably wouldn't take long, because Nessa's preoccupied with everything else and asking questions. Delinda might have said something after their conversation in Mystique. So Nessa didn't exactly not leave clues all over the place about her getting involved in something fishy, right? She wasn't entirely clean. But they're saying, Ed then says that it was probably a double that came that day that looked exactly like Jackson Holt. Okay. Okay. And then Ed has a heart-to-heart with Nessa about loyalty and trust.
Since you're this high, I told you, I mean, I don't know how many times I told you, that the two things that were the most important values that you could have in life were, do you remember?
Loyalty and trust.
Loyalty and trust. So why? I mean, why would you have to lie to me?
I'm sorry.
Especially when it comes to family. Loyalty. Family. You're my daughter, Ness. And I love you. But this is your one free pass.
Keep that in mind as we near the end of the season. This is Nessa's one free pass. And Nessa thanks Ed for being the best dad anybody could ask for. And they hug it out, and they break the tension again when Ed says, "Don't make me cry in this casino." But we see that same guy from Nessa's birthday in the casino looking at the scene that we just saw. And as we see that, we don't see a tear come down, but we can definitely see him sniffling as he gets up and walks out of the casino. Exact same guy. The hat, everything. Exact same guy. A double, huh, Ed? A double? Not actually Jackson Holt? Then who is this guy? That's the episode games people play. The music underneath that last scene, if you're watching on the original version, the song is Mad About You by Hooverphonic, all one word. If you're watching on the DVD, the song is a production song, talking about a long, long way to go. If you're watching on the streaming services, the song that you hear is Empty of Love by Sooski, Sooski. All their songs all of them are good. Like, there's not a bad one in the bunch here. You can't go wrong with either one of them. I'm just going to come right out and say it. From the time I saw this episode to today, reading the book and everything, and keeping in mind, I don't remember a lot from the book. I remember big parts of the book, but I don't remember a lot about the book. That does go into more of Nessa and her father situation. That's Jackson. That's Jackson Holt. That's Jackson Holt. And I could not find the name of the actor that played him, either in the picture or in the screen. I could not do it. Google face search didn't bring up anything. I could not find it. I could not find this actor's name. For the life of me. I'm going to try to keep looking because we're still in this, and Jackson Holt is going to come up in season 2 and in between season 3. And we are reading that book together. I just have to figure out how. But that's Jackson. To me, that's Jackson. From the time I see this, that's Jackson. From the time that I see him sniffling, that's Jackson. And also, I still don't think Ed's telling Nessa the entire truth. There's still a disconnect between Ed and Nessa, even with all this. And I think, even with the going back and forth, I think Nessa believes a lot more of the story now, or she's back to almost central in terms of what she believes in terms of her father, etc. But I still think that Ed knows more than he's laying on. And for whatever reasons, whatever he thinks he's protecting Nessa from still, he knows more than is being let on. Again, we've had that conversation with a couple other different characters already on this show. I don't think Ed doesn't believe that Jackson's alive. I don't. And I don't think that Ed doesn't believe that guy was Jackson. When he said that was a double, I think he was lying through his teeth to Nessa, to her face. I think. But we'll see, because I think that does get explored a bit in the book. So we'll see when we get to that. This was the Games People Play. This was a good episode. So the aggregate rating for this episode is about 8.3. I would say, out of 10, I would give this probably a solid 8.5. It's not 9 territory yet, but it's solid 8.5. Maybe even higher. You might go as far as to say 8.75. 8.75 feels a little high too. Solid 8.5, maybe 8.6 to me. This is a very solid episode. One of my favorite queens, Nessa Holt, gets the absolute spotlight, and I love it. And we get to see different aspects of her. We get to see different aspects of Marsha Thomas as an actress. I love seeing that. She plays off of her playing off of two very talented individuals. Rowena King doesn't get enough credit for her amazing acting that she's done, probably because, she is very centralized in England, obviously, not necessarily, and hasn't had too many major hits here in America. Like, she's been on stuff that you've seen, but it's mostly as guest spots. But she's very good in this. You don't know which way she's turning throughout the whole episode. Even at the very end when she's caught, you can still see the slipperiness of her. In terms of Vita Brighton's connection with Jackson, I think, and this is my early speculation, keeping in mind that I still, again, don't remember much about the book, although I don't know that Vita is brought up much in the book, if at all. But I think, because again, when I said that I think that's really Jackson, I think that every part of this was Jackson's plan except for Vita backstabbing the Montecito. I think either Jackson didn't know that she would try to do that or didn't care. That wasn't, like, he knew the kind of person that she was, probably. Very much like Alec Baldwin's character, how Ed knew that he always leaves with little something. Any job, he leaves with a little bit of something. He probably had in the back of his mind that maybe she would, but she might have been the easiest and or the best option for him to get in contact with Nessa. I think Jackson wanted to get in contact with Nessa again. I think he felt like it was safe enough to at least say something, or it was nagging on him enough. Maybe he felt like he was getting older and was getting close to that. That happens a lot where you start reevaluating your life, even if you're on the run and stuff like that. I think Jackson did call her in. So I think at the very end there, where Vita was like, I still know where your father is, I think she actually was telling the truth. I think now the Springwood thing, that may have been true, actually. Jackson might have been there and then realized that she wasn't going to be there and then came to the Montecito. So as much as Nessa might reset to believing Ed in a lot of aspects, I think a lot of what Vita told Nessa was true. And I think that Jackson did want to get in contact with Nessa. I think Jackson did come to Vegas to meet Nessa. And I think that's part of why he's sniffling, because he's going to go back to Morocco now. Has to go back through the channels to go back through Morocco, maybe even early, maybe even late, depending on when that 11 o'clock was supposed to be, a.m. or p. I think probably a.m. So probably late, because I think this is evening or afternoon, or evening, nighttime. So he's got to leave without saying hi to Nessa at all, especially now that Ed was there. So he might have come to, here's another thing, he might have come to Montecito to talk to Nessa. But as soon as he sees Nessa, she's around Ed that whole time, and he can't come up to Nessa because Ed, he could have maybe done a brief thing, a brief hi, hello, whatever, but he couldn't with Ed there because he doesn't completely trust Ed, and I completely understand that because, again, the couple of people we've already talked to have clued us in that what Ed kind of may have orchestrated Jackson's estrangement, forcibly or not, from Nessa. So I think all that plays in. Oh, that's why I love the intrigue a lot. So now I'm thinking about it. I almost want to give this a 9 because it really does. I'm going to give it a solid 8.75 because it really does do a lot of groundwork. It does fill in a lot of spaces in the background of the DeLines and the Holts. If you stop and think about it for a while, like, it does fill a lot of stuff in. The Mary and Hennessy Figueroa storyline is it's quintessential Mary. Again, I loved the connection that we finally got again between Mary and Danny. Delinda was good in this episode, very on point for her all the way around. I think her hackles came up when Nessa came into Mystique. I think Mike was good in this. I love the rival. I'm going to give this. I'm trying to see. This is the first time. You know what? This is the first time this is happening to me, or one of the first times this is happening to me in a review. I'm talking myself into giving this a higher number than I thought I was going to give it. I was going to settle on 8.6, but the more I talk about it, the more I want to give it a 9. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't not perfect. It hit a lot of points. It hit a lot of the points that give me rating an episode of Las Vegas higher points. So I'm going to settle on 9, I think. I'm going to settle, because just point by point, it hits the things, and it hits them well. Sam's story arc, Sam gets, man, we're going to see more of mean Sam. We're going to see more of mean street, vindictive, cutting, biting Sam. Sam's going to have a lot more bite as the series goes on, and this was one of the bitier Sam episodes too. I think I'm going to give it a 9. I think I'm going to give this episode a 9. Wow, I think I am. My rating doesn't matter though, luckily, so you don't have to take too much stock in it. The ratings I want to hear about are yours, and I want to hear about your ratings everywhere. You know what? Let's do it like this. This week I want to hear your ratings mostly on the Podecito's Twitter page. That's where I mostly want to hear your feedback on this episode. How about that? How about we figure out where everybody is? I'm making this up as I go along. So how about we figure out where everybody is on the Podecito page, and I want to know what you think of things at the Podecito on Twitter. I want to know what you think of this episode. What rating would you give it? Who is your VIP for this episode? I'm still going to post the polls everywhere, but I want to know who you think your VIP for this episode is. Thank you. Also, we want to let you know all the different ways you can, the different ways you can support the Podecito. And more specifically, we're talking about Patreon, and more specifically, we're talking about Venmo, Cash App. Those are the best ways to do that. I haven't had a lot of time actually to get a hold of the other places, but support is essential. I'm going to be bringing in the first employee of the Podecito soon because I just need help. This has been a one-man band this whole time, and I need some help. So I'm going to bring in some help. And you will help in helping that help by doing your support Patreon at the Podecito, and you get different perks for the different routes that you get. If you're a guest, you can see at least posts, but you may not have access to stuff. But that's the free one, like Angie has. You could be entertainment manager, like Anthony is, at the $10 rate, and that gets you access to most of the stuff actually on the platform. But there's other tiers as well. The lowest tier will get you access to the audio stuff, which is ad-free always, early when I can get it early. And $5 and above gets you video, and there are other assets that are coming as well as early assets, as well as the Crossing Jordan episode, which is coming up sooner than you think. We're 2 episodes away in the Podecito from the Crossing Jordan episode, Crossing Jordan crossover. It starts in Boston with Crossing Jordan. That episode will be a member exclusive. That will not be anywhere else. I might post a clip somewhere, but it would not be anywhere else. To get the full Crossing Jordan episode, you will have to do the Patreon or subscribe, whichever one of the bonuses, and then you'll have access to that one, as well as Rumble in the Montecito. That's coming up sooner than you think. That's going to be a fun one too. That's also going to be a member exclusive episode as well. If you can support, and I appreciate you supporting that way if you can. If you can't support, and that happens, trust me, I get it. If you can't support monetarily, one way you can support is by sharing. Another way you can support is by posting this to the stars in the Montecito that are on social media. Most of them are, in fact, including somebody who's running a James Caan account on Twitter. That's reportedly a family friend. That helps as well. Get it out to the people that are on the show. Let them know about the show. Let them know that you would love to see them or hear them on the show. Maybe we can get that working that way. I'm gonna try my way as well to get other people on the show. But sharing is caring. Like I said, I've seen some other Las Vegas fan pages elsewhere, and that's a good way to let people know about the show. I appreciate you doing all that. Like I can do some of that, but there are definitely places that frown upon, like me as the Podecito posting about the Podecito onto Las Vegas pages. There's some places that get real iffy about that kind of thing, even though if you want to click on it, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But there's some places that get real iffy about that kind of thing. So if you do it, then it wouldn't be like me receiving video game, Mike and Danny receiving video games. It would be, you just advertising, and that helps as well. Next week, we have Montecito Lancers. I like this episode. Montecito Lancers is a very good episode to me, offhand. We get the introduction of somebody who is very important to one of our kings of the Montecito, Danny McCoy, a.k.a. Josh Duhamel, at least was. I guess still is very important, right? In one aspect, but not as they used to be. As well as VIP guest star contingent that includes somebody with the greatest guest star name of all time, Don't At Me. And we're talking football. We're talking football next episode, and that's a Pee Wee football, and that's a great episode as well. So I will see you next week. In the meantime, in between time, please, as always, remember to check the color of the roses that the spy trying to set up a meeting with your fugitive father. Make sure you check the color of that rose before you actually go to the meeting. And also, above all else, please take care.
No guilt, no shame.